Good morning, students. So in today's video class we are continuing with the solve exercises. So we will discuss the solve exercise, that is question number 9. Okay. So if you see the textbook, the question number, that is, consider the question number 9, consider the following declarations and answer the questions given below. So a list of 4 questions has been given there. You have to read the question and then try to understand that, and then give the answers. So the question I have written the question, and the answers are also already given. Okay, so I'll try to explain the answers, how you get the answer. Okay, so first you have to try to understand the program. So here in this program you have 3 class, that is class PPP, class QQQ, and class RRR. So you have 3 class. So as you can see, the class triple P is the base class. Okay, so this base class has in this class declaration, okay, in the body of this class definition, within the curly brackets you have the data members and the member functions declared for this, that belongs to this class PPP. Okay, so you have the data member or the variable int h declared. Since no label is written there, so by default int h is a private data member. So this private data member belongs to the class PPP, and it is only accessible or by this class. And the derived class, that is QQQ or RRR, it cannot access the data member H. Okay, now you can see that you have a protected data member also. The label protected is written there, so that is the data member is int s. Okay, protected X like private data members, protected X like private access specifier, uh, which is inaccessible by other non-derived class. Okay, however, a derived class can have access to the protected data members, provided the inherited class is made public or protected, but not private. Okay, so it has its own public member functions, that is void input, okay, and void out. So the input, it declares integer type parameter within the parenthesis. So the class QQQ, okay, is derived from the class PPP, as you can see. You're using the colon. Okay, so using the colon, so this class QQQ is derived from the class PPP, and as you can see that the label private. Okay, so which means that the class QQQ, okay, has inherited the members of the class PPP as private, which means that, okay, the data members and the member functions of the class PPP, when it is declared inside the class of QQQ declaration, okay, it will change to private. The class PPP members will change to private inside the class QQQ definition body. Okay, but however, the int h, which is by default private, cannot be inherited at all, even if the derived class is inheriting privately. The base class, okay, has inherited the private, but still then int h cannot be accessible. Okay, however, the protected int s, okay, that data member can be accessed by this class QQQ. However, when this int s, okay, is written inside the class QQQ, since the access specifier is mentioned there as private, so all that protected data member in S, when it is declared inside the class QQQ, it will change from protected to private, as it is that the class QQQ, okay, using the colon, is inheriting the class PPP as private, right? So also the member functions, that is void input and void out, will change from public to private inside the class QQQ. The class QQQ also has its own members, that is int t, which is private, okay, and then a protected data member, that is int u, and then public member functions in data and out data, okay. So keep in mind that all the members of the class PPP, which is derived by the class QQQ, will change from protected to private and from public to private, okay. Now class RRR, okay, is inheriting again from the class QQQ, or it is derived from the class QQQ, okay. So now this class RRR is publicly accessing the members of the class QQQ, okay, since it is written there public. So the class RRR has its own members, that is data member M, which is private, and then it has its public member function void display, okay. So now since the class RRR has public access to the class QQQ, okay, which means that int t, which is private, will not be inherited at all, okay, and it can have access to int u because it is protected, okay. So when that int u is declared inside class RRR, okay, though the access specifier is mentioned as public, okay, since in the class QQQ it is being mentioned as protected, so in the class RRR also it will be protected only. Int u will remain as protected only, okay, and the public member functions in data and out data will remain the same. It will be public only as public member functions. However, the private members of class PPP, okay, will not be accessible by the class RRR. So if you see the relationship between these three class, okay, the class PPP is the base class. From there, class QQQ is derived, and then class RRR is derived from class QQQ, which means that the first class triple P acts like the grandfather. Then class triple Q is the intermediate base class. It is the derived class, but it also acts as the intermediate base class for the derived class RRR, okay, which means like the grandfather, father, and child. So this is an example of multi-level inheritance, okay. So if you forgot what is multi-level inheritance, go back to my previous videos, or you can check the textbook to understand the concept through that diagram, okay. So you have the grandfather, you have the father, and then you have the child multi-level inheritance concept. So now coming back to the question, name the base class and derived class of the class QQQ. So the question is asking to name the base class, that is the parent class, the parent, and the derived class, the child, of the class QQQ. So class QQQ is the intermediate base class. It is between the base class and the child class RRR, okay. So which means that, okay, the base class, since it is deriving from the class PPP, so that will be the base class and the answer, okay. And from QQQ another class is being derived, that is RRR, so that will be the derived class, okay. Now next question is, name the data members that can be accessed from function DISP. So The member function DISP, this is a public member function. So what data members can this member function access? It can access its own, this member function can access the data member of the class RRR, that is the private data member int m. Okay, because since it is a private data member, only the public member function of that class can access that private data member. So m can be accessed by the function DISP, as well as the protected data member int u, because when it is inherited publicly by the class RRR, okay, the access specifier will not change, it will remain protected, and protected data members can be accessed by the derived class. Okay, so m and u are the data members that can be accessed from the function DISP, but s cannot be, int s cannot be accessed at all. Why? Because the class QQQ, okay, has private access to the class PPP. So the protected label will change from protected to private in the class QQQ. That means int s will change from protected to private. So that is inaccessible. Then next is name the member functions which can be accessed from the objects of class RRR. Okay, so if you declare an object in the main function for the class RRR, suppose in the main function you have declared RRR, okay, and then the object name is R, okay, the object name is R. So what which member functions can this object access? In that case it will be say like r.disp, okay, r.disp, then r.in_data and r.out_data, because the class QQQ member functions are derived publicly. Okay, however, the class PPP member functions cannot be accessible at all because it changed from public to private. So next question is the member function out accessible by the objects of the class QQQ? So the answer is no. Okay, because the class QQQ cannot have access to that the object of the class QQQ cannot have access to that since it's changed from public to private. Okay, so next we have question number 10. The same type of program, okay, except that you have the class name change. So if you see it's very much similar from the previous program. Here the only thing changed is the class name, that is world. Okay, the data member is remaining the same. It is in h protected in s. Okay, so even the member functions are same, and in the derived class you have class country, and then it is accessing the class world as the members of the class world as private. Okay, so it is privately inheriting the members of the class world. Similarly, you have in data and out data as the member functions. Okay, and then in the class state, which is another class, you have public access to the country class. So here is also same, just the class name change, and in this particular program, okay, is also an example of multi-level inheritance. The class world is the grandfather, the class country is the father, and the class state is the child. So if you see the question, name the base class and derived class of the class country. So in this case, the base class is the world and the derived class is the state. Okay. Similarly, name the data members that can be accessed from the function display. In the previous program, it was DISP. Here it is written in full form display. So in that case, it can access M, which belongs to the class state, its own data member, and then it can access in U, which is under protected. Okay, so it cannot access S. Similarly, name the member functions which can be accessed from the objects of the class state. So the class state object, if suppose you declare an object in the main function state, and then the object name is st. Okay, so it will be st.display, st.inData, and st.outData. Okay, so these are the three member functions that can be accessible by the object of the class state. Okay, so try to type this program and then try to check out. Okay, include the main function and then try to change the question. Okay, instead of name the base class and derived class of the class country, okay, you can also write down like name the base class. Okay, name the base class of the class state, like that, right? Okay, or name the data members that can be accessed from the function in data, out data, like that. So try changing the question, and then the more you change the question and manipulate it, okay, the more you will understand. Okay, so that will be all for today. Okay.